Welcome to the Boar's latest and very fun project. We're extremely excited to welcome you to Hogging the Mic, our new podcast. We hope this project will bring all the wisdom of our alumni straight to you at home, on holiday, on your commute, or somewhere entirely different. We'll also talk you through the work we do at the Boar and spotlight our incredible writers and their articles. So I'm Beth, and I work as the editor for the podcast section, a role I took on back in April. And whilst today I'll be hosting this episode, usually I'll be behind the scenes. I'll be a ghost, creating everything you see on social media and our other platforms, writing articles about these interviews and working hard on this project. But today I am your host because I am introducing you to your wonderful hosts, Tom, Rachel, and Lucy. All three of you are just incredible assets to the society. We're lucky to have you. I'm lucky to be working with you. But Rachel, why don't we start with you? Talk us through your journey at the Boar, your position here at Hogging the Mic, anything else you want to throw in there. Go for it.
Well, I started at the Boar literally in Freshers Week of first year. So I went along to a little welcome talk and started speaking to some of the people on exec. And they basically were like, apply to be a deputy editor. And I was like, okay, may as well. So I did. And at the time, my first choice section was news. So I interviewed for news and sport actually. And then I got news dep. So I was news dep for my first year. And then when it came to elections at the end of term 2, I decided that I actually didn't want to run for news editor and that instead I wanted to run for sport. So I did that, and me and Lucy, Lucy will tell you this later, we were very much under the belief that we were going to be the only people running for editor for our section, and then we both ended up against 3 other people. So that was a bit of a surprise, but you know, these things happen. So yeah, did elections and won, so was sport editor, and then just finished up that position, and now ahead of going on a year abroad, I'm not on exec officially, but have managed to become involved in a new way through this. So still very much here.
Perfect. And what position? Well, like, what is your role going to be here?
Well, hosting. So I'm more on the sports side. So when we're talking about articles specifically, going to be focusing on the sports section and the sports section of the Boar. But yeah, hosting alongside Tom and Lucy and interviewing a lot of alumni, hopefully.
Nice. And Lucy, how did you start?
Mine is basically the same as Rachel, but literally swap out news and sport for music. I went along in Freshers Week 2, started speaking to the exec. I knew I wanted to get involved, and they just started taking me through the paper, and they were like, these are the sections. And then they were like, you know, music. And I was like, oh, music, that's really cool. And they were like, can you get free tickets for concerts if you go for a review? And I just thought that was the best thing ever, because I go to like so many concerts anyway, and the fact that you could go for free was so cool. So I decided to apply as a dep for music, and I think I also put down like books and lifestyle, but the one that I really wanted was music. And I got in, I was a dep for the year. It was really fun. And then I took over the section from Sophie, but much like Rachel, I was running against 3 other people who were all great. So it was quite a challenge to become editor, but it was really good. Did that last year and just gave the section over to Jack, who's doing a really good job. And now for Hogging the Mic, I am the culture editor. Culture host even. So I will cover articles for like music, TV, film, lifestyle, anything that kind of comes under that culture media bracket. But again, like Rachel, I'm going on my year abroad, so it's like I'm not officially on exec, but I'm still keeping my hand in somehow.
The next time not the next time, but eventually you will see these 2 in Spain, which is pretty exciting.
Hopefully.
Okay. Tom?
I feel like I've got a slightly different journey into the Boar. So I didn't actually join straight away in first year. I remember I went along to freshers events. I enjoyed looking around, but I very much got involved in other societies with Warwick. I joined all the WhatsApp groups where you can join to take all pictures, which lots of writers do. And I did my first article in December of 2023, which was for the book section. That was the first section I wrote for. And that was for the 50th anniversary print, which was a really fun experience because I hadn't hadn't written for anything like that before, so it was really fun just to be able to write without the pressure of editing. So I wrote that article and I wrote a few more articles, and then decided I was really enjoying the Boar and I wanted to get involved more. So there's deputy applications as well in around May or June, and that's when I applied to become a deputy at the end of my first year. Very similar to Rachel. I probably took over from Rachel actually as news dep. Yeah, because Rachel had just become sports editor. So I did that for a year. So I started in June and then up until elections this year, where I feel like I had it slightly easier than Rachel and Lucy because I run to be co-news editor and me and Nicola run uncontested. So we had a slightly easier run in elections. But yeah, it's great. I'm currently news editor and I will be news editor until the next elections this year. So you'll see me around. I'm not on a year abroad, unfortunately, but I'll be around on campus. So I will be doing all things campus news as well as hosting the podcast. So I'm going to be news host on the podcast as well. So anything news based, if you don't see Nikolai, my fellow news editor, on the case, I'm probably covering whatever's going on with Warwick News.
Perfect. I mean, there is something to be said for having different journeys into the Boar. I mean, I only joined this year. This year just gone in my third year. And like you two said, you can definitely still be involved when you're on your year abroad. I went for podcast editor as like a by election, so nobody had run for it. And I just thought, why not now? So there's definitely something to be said for joining at any point in your time at Warwick. Like, it's never too late. Here we are. So I'm loving it. Okay, back to the podcast. Everything to do with the podcast. Lucy, what is our biggest hope and aim for the podcast?
Well, we want to, with our listeners, encourage them as much as possible to get involved with the Boar and show them like what student media is like, but also what you can do with student media. So we're going to have lots of alumni on the podcast, which I think Rachel's going to be talking about, like how the structure of the podcast is going to work. But we will have lots of alumni talking about what they've done after being involved with the Boar. So hopefully we'll encourage lots of Warwick students to get involved and see all the benefits of getting involved with student media. And obviously we want to get in as much alumni as possible. So that is also a big aim. But most importantly, the biggest aim is that we want Stephen Merchant on the podcast, our favourite Warwick alumni, because he did write for the Boar and he wrote for the music section. And now obviously he is a very well-known sort of writer for lots of TV shows as well as being an actor. So we want him on the podcast.
So basically, if anyone has any contact details to Stephen Merchant, let us know.
Let us know.
We're desperate.
I really wish we could find that Ruth Jones had written for the Boar as well, because I think she'd be great on the podcast.
Yeah, I think we should.
We need to look through like every article ever written for the Boar and just find the craziest names.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, like we want as many people to get involved. So freshers, if you're listening to this, come find us. We're very welcoming. We're a nice bunch. We don't bite, I promise. Okay, you mentioned alumni, the structure, how everything's going to go. Do you want to run us through that, Rachel?
Yeah, so essentially every episode is going to start with myself, Tom and Lucy speaking about our favourite or the articles we found the most interesting from that week in our respective sections, so news, culture, sport, and these will be articles that are posted on the Boar, so kind of spotlighting writers and the stories that they've been telling. And then we'll go into the biggest section of the podcast, which is going to be our interviews with alumni. So we've got a bunch of alumni lined up, and we're going to be speaking to them all about what they did whilst they were at the Boar, but also what they've done since and how they've done it. And we're most likely going to also be speaking to some section editors, current writers, people within the society now at Warwick as well. So basically telling a lot of different stories of different people who are involved or have been involved in some way.
Yeah. And how often? She learned this last night, by the way.
No, don't expose me. Once every 2 weeks. That's how often.
Perfect. We're hoping it will be available on, well, whatever site you're listening to it right now, but as many sites as possible as well. So whatever you use to listen to podcasts will hopefully be there. We'll find out.
Spotify and YouTube.
Yeah.
At least, I think so.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. If you're listening to it now, we've succeeded. So welcome.
Let's hope then.
Okay. Moving swiftly on. Tom, why a podcast and why now?
I think the great thing with the Boar is that we have so many different options for people to get involved, like we've said before. So you can write, we've got other exec positions, whether you're involved in operations team or whether you're involved in social media. And I think the one thing that the Boar was missing, though, was a podcast. So we've had a podcast section now for a few years. The podcast editor before, Beth Matthew, had set up the podcast section, I think about 3 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great to get some spotlight on some other podcasts and writing about other podcasts. Podcasts are becoming so popular. And I mean, I spend most of my walks or commutes to uni listening to podcasts. So I think we decided it was great to have a podcast section, but it would be great for the Boar to have their own podcast. So we decided to set the podcast up. We had the idea, and yeah, it's nice to see it now in action. Obviously, if you're listening to this episode, we did get it into action, which is great. We had the idea a few months back. But yeah, it's just we want to really connect our readers or listeners to the Boar a bit more. The one thing with the Boar is I think sometimes people can feel a little bit disconnected, which really shouldn't be the case, because like Beth said, we're all lovely people and we all want you to get involved. And that's our job as editors as well, is not just to edit the articles, but to encourage people to get involved as well. And I think the podcast will be a great way to do that, for you to understand what the Boar is about, and yeah, just really to get involved and to start writing or start listening or just see what articles we've got going up, really. So I think it's the perfect time to get a podcast launched, and yeah, we can't wait to do it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I came on board a little later when I also pitched the idea for a podcast when I ran for podcast editor, but I know this has been a budding idea for you guys. So I'd love to know where it all started off. Where did the idea come from? What conversation did it come from?
I mean, it's probably easier to start with how we kind of got to know each other, to be honest. So me and Lucy have been friends for a while. As we said, we had a very similar journey into entering the Boar, and we also do half of the same degree. So we've kind of known each other and been very close for a long time. But it was at SPAs, so SPA Nationals, which I'm sure we'll speak about at some point in a later episode. I think the best way to describe it to Warwick students is probably like a domestic tour, but for the Boar, and with a lot of other student papers. And that was kind of where we got close as a three, I guess. I mean, we obviously knew Tom, but more through like writing and editing and stuff. So yeah, we got close at SPAs, and then after that, the idea for a podcast came about, I think genuinely just because we were talking a lot. Like, I don't think it was anything crazy, but yeah.
You're certified rappers.
Yeah, I think we did meet just at a train station. I feel like that, if you want to put it a simple way, it was very much our trains just lined up to go to SPAs. And then I think we just started talking a lot after the weekend, it was a great weekend. I think if you do end up coming, you will end up just making friends and realizing you're all in it for the same reason. But I think that then we just started talking afterwards, and I think we were talking about different ideas for the Boar in the year ahead. And I think it was me that just said, why? I mean, a podcast would be great. And then I think after realizing we all do like a yap, we was like, yeah, let's get it set up. And then Beth came on board, which was great. It's been great to have Beth on board already. And yeah, I think that's how it all started, really.
Mm-hmm. It's so good to see it come into fruition. I mean, like literally from the first message where you messaged me, Tom, being like, we've also had this idea, like, do you want to come on board? I was like, yes, please. Let's get this started. Like, this is so exciting. And like you say, I just think a podcast is the next step for the Boar. It's a way to bring in a different audience, to encourage people in a different way. Some people prefer to listen to things rather than read things. And yeah, I think it will be great. We're very excited. So, okay, I'm going to move on slightly from the podcast. We're going to get to know you guys a bit more, your adventures at the Boar a bit more. I want to know what your biggest challenge has been, either in an editor role, a writer role, investigative report, whatever you feel your biggest challenge has been. And who am I going to pick on? I feel like I'm going to pick on Lucy first.
Oh. Biggest challenge. Well, to be fair, there's not been too many like huge challenges because for the majority, like I enjoy, especially with the music section, I enjoy like all of it. I guess the biggest challenge is part of being music editor is that you have to do a lot of PR work and a lot of like contacting PR to get the gigs and the albums and like interviews and stuff. And a lot of the time it was just kind of like cold emailing. And you wouldn't get a response, and sometimes that was like a bit disappointing to like find the PR and contact them and not get a response. That was probably the biggest challenge to it, and then having to maybe like let her write it down and be like, oh, I'm really sorry, but they aren't replying. That was probably the biggest challenge, but it's also really great when the PR do reply and you get like free tickets or an album like 2 weeks before it's coming out. So like there's upsides and downsides to that side of editing for sure.
I mean, the opportunities in the music section are great.
And I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't realize that you can get. And like when I was like talking to my friends like in first year, I was like, oh yeah, we can get like free gigs and stuff. Like people don't realize that you can like get tickets to something or get an album or get an interview with somebody. Like they don't realize that that's something you can access through the Boar. So it's really cool. It's really cool.
I do think for people who aren't involved in the Boar, it's quite easy to just see us as a Warwick newspaper when actually we do have quite a big outreach. We have really created something here, having those opportunities, having people reach out to us for these opportunities. You know, it's not always us who is emailing people. People do see the Boar as a great place to get their albums heard or to get a piece written about. So, yeah, I mean, the best thing you can do is just try and see what comes your way and say yes to everything. So yeah, definitely. Okay, Tom, what's been your biggest challenge?
I think from a news perspective especially, it's really great to do the shorter pieces, the pieces that focus on Warwick news. But as an editor and as deputy editors, you'll probably get involved more in investigation pieces. And they're really fun pieces to do because you're able to bring stories to the forefront. But they do pose a lot of challenges, however fun they are. And when you get them into print and it all comes together, it's great. It is then really hard just to try and find all the evidence you need, all the details you need in a limited space of time. But I think, I don't want to sound like I'm putting a downer on everything, but that in itself is a great challenge because it does teach you how to manage your time, how to just keep pushing for things. And especially if you want to go into journalism, these are the things you're probably going to be doing in your job. So it's a great chance to practice these skills. You don't really get the opportunity anywhere else to practice them. So yeah, it's freedom of information requests. They're great. They get some good information back, but they can be really tricky to get back and to get right. And then just doing surveys and getting quotes from people. It's all great when you have it on paper to start off with, but then when you're trying to get it all together, it can be a bit of a challenge. But I think with every challenge at the Boar also comes rewards. Like Lucy was saying, it's a really great opportunity to throw yourself into these situations. And sometimes you're going to be faced with challenges. Sometimes you're not going to get what you want. Sometimes you might not even get the lead on the story that you think you can get and you want. But equally, a lot of the times as well, you'll be able to bring a story, you'll be able to report on a story that maybe isn't being reported elsewhere. I mean, last year in the end of the summer, there was a conference going on at Warwick that wasn't widely reported, being hosted by a far-right group, and it wasn't being reported anywhere else. And we were able to bring that then to the Warwick community. And it's stories like this that I come into the Boar for. I want to share stories with the Warwick community that might otherwise go unheard. So it is really hard to be doing it. I did that article with last year's news editor Martin, this year's editor-in-chief. During the summer, we were basically WhatsApping back and forth to each other to try and get the article out. And we did get it out in about 4 or so hours on a late August day when it was sunny outside. And I think we would probably want to do anything else, but it's a challenge. But also, yeah, the rewards you get from it are great. And that's just in the news section. But like all the other sections have such great opportunities as well. And I've been able to write for all those sections. So it's been really good. The challenges are worth it, definitely.
Yeah, there's so many transferable skills you gain from doing anything at the Boar, any position, even just writing for the Boar. you learn so much about your own voice, how you want to write, how to write concisely. Obviously, it's very different writing for the news section compared to other sections where the news is more factual and neutral, and opinion pieces you have your own voice. But it's a really cool experience to get to try those writing those ways and finding out what you like to write most, I suppose. Go on then, Rachel, hit us.
I'd say my biggest challenge was probably when I took over as sport editor. I kind of did quite a big like rebrand, I guess, to the sports section and changed it a lot. Just the way it was working, it had been that way for a while, so wanted to kind of switch things up. So I did a lot and changed the way that we used social media in terms of posting about articles, but also posting about like live events and matches that we were covering and fixtures and stuff, and also contacted a lot of like local clubs and uni societies and stuff, and that was really exciting and really fun, but it was also definitely a challenge, and trying to get in and also get writers writing in this kind of new way and in different kinds of pieces as well. So yeah.
I think we can also all agree we've had one big challenge with this podcast so far, which again, if you're listening, we succeeded at. We can't work out how to download what we are filming, but I have faith in us.
I feel like that makes us sound like really incompetent, but I promise you it's more difficult than it seems.
There's just a big paywall, and we're trying to work out how we can lower the paywall, basically. But we'll get there, and I really believe in us. So basically what you're learning is whatever position you take at the board, there will be challenges, but the rewards are something else because you get to listen to us. Okay. I mean, you guys are my favourites, so let's go on to other favourites. Your favourite articles, I want to hear about them. Why they were your favourite articles, what stood out about them, and kind of give people an idea for what sort of things they can write about. We'll start with you, Tom.
So I think I've written about over 50 articles for the Boar now, but the one that really stands out to me is one I did last October, which was quite a personal piece for me. I've been dancing for about 14 years now. I'm involved with Latin Ballroom at Warwick as well, which is one of the reasons I didn't get involved in the Boar earlier, ironically. But I decided I wanted to write a piece on almost the homophobia and the challenges I faced in dance as well. However great it is dancing, you do face challenges. You face, especially as a boy, in bullying, internalized homophobia, and having a space to write about that was a real pleasure because I'd never been able to speak about it. And I think the one great thing about the Boar is you can write about what you want, and the editors will give you a chance to write about it. And Rachel was actually the editor for this article, and that was on the back page of the October print, it was just really great to see something that I've been told for years that dance isn't a sport. So to see that on the back page of the sports section was just a great article, and that really then stuck with me. And however much I've enjoyed writing the other articles for news, it was great to have that personal opportunity. And that's one of the things the Boar will give you. You can write anything from the fact that some pigeons are causing a disruption on the train lines in Warwick to a really personal piece for you. And I think that's the great thing we have about the range at the Boar. And yeah, it's just really great to have those opportunities. So I think that's one piece that really sticks with me.
Okay. Yeah, it was a great piece, and you went on to win a Boar Award for it, which was so well deserved. I think it's so important to be writing our own stories as well as writing stories for other people, because we all have our own things that deserve to be spoken about as well. So absolute credit to you for writing that piece, to be honest. Lucy, we'll go with you next.
I've mainly written for kind of the culture music section predominantly, but I would say probably my favorite one that I've written was an interview that I did with Stoll Davis from band James, who've been going for they were quite prominent in the 90s and they're still going now. It was just firstly a great opportunity to get to interview him, but also he was a great interviewee. Like he was also a certified yapper. He did not stop talking. Like the interview ran over time. I had to tell him that we had to finish now. He was gonna have to wrap up what he was saying. But it was just really good. I just got so much out of it, not just the interview experience, but also just learning so much about sort of the music scene and his involvement in it. And then it was just a really fun piece to also write up, because I had so much content from what he'd been saying. So yeah, I'd probably say that was my favorite article that I've done.
It is so fun to interview people, and to have that experience to chat with someone who you may not have been able to chat to in like any other situation. So I think that's also one of the great opportunities of the Boar. Rachel, how about you?
My favourite piece I've written was probably an investigation or like feature piece that I did towards the end of last year, which was about inclusivity and accessibility of Warwick sport specifically, and university sport. So I kind of looked into disability sport provision at the university in a lot of different ways. So I spoke to a Paralympian who had attended Warwick a couple of years ago. I spoke to a current England deaf football player, which was really interesting. So speaking to like professional athletes was really cool. And then I also got to speak to a lot of current Warwick students who were part of different societies like Awesome at Warwick, and then also had physical disabilities. So yeah, I got to speak to a lot of people and kind of learn a lot about a side of Warwick sport that I literally didn't know a lot about, and I also feel like isn't spoken about at all. So yeah, that was really fun and really interesting as well.
Yeah, it's again such an important piece to be telling that story, to be raising awareness of things like that. And I just think it's great that like all of you have given a very different example of something that you've been able to write for the Boar, and that just like is such credit to what you can achieve at the Boar and what you can write about. If you've got a story you want to tell, like tell it, and that's the biggest piece of advice we can give, really. But it's not just writing at the Boar, it's a society and it's a group of people. We are great friends. There's many other opportunities. So I want to know now about your favorite memory of the society, your favorite social, something you did aside from writing and editing that really makes the Boar a special place. Go for it.
I feel like all of our answers probably going to be the same. I don't know, but for me anyway, it would be SPAs. I know we spoke about this earlier, but SPA Nationals was such a good weekend. It's basically a conference. The SPA is a Student Publication Association, so the majority of student publications across the UK are registered with SPAs, and the Nationals weekend is basically centered around the awards evening, which is where people are presented with national awards for articles, for roles as general writers, for sections. There's a whole variety of awards, but it's a lot more than that, really. It's a very fun weekend. There's a lot of workshops, there's a lot of sessions with current reporters and editors of really big publications. There's the opportunity to speak to a lot of writers who are doing the same roles as you but at other universities, and it's also just a lot of fun. Yeah, it was a very good weekend, so that would be my favourite.
That was also my favourite, but I'll talk about the Boar Awards just to give another example of a really fun event they do at the Boar. So every year at the end of the year, this year it was like end of May, was it? The Boar organises the Boar Awards, which celebrates basically the year at the Boar, and also every section gives out an award for sort of the best article that was published that year, which has been chosen. The editor of the section nominates 5 articles, and then the public, so any sort of members of the Boar, can vote between those 5 articles for their favourite. So it celebrates the writers or the members of the Boar, and also it's just like a really fun like get together for all of the writers and editors, and just to kind of also put sort of faces to names, because I know, especially as an editor, and I'm sure these guys will agree, is that we like message people on WhatsApp and email people and we just see their name and you never actually meet them in person. So it's a really good opportunity to go and meet the people that you've kind of been talking to or like have seen and written an article. So yeah, it's just a really good get together for everybody at the Boar.
Mm-hmm.
And I think aside from that as well, we are just a normal society. We just have our normal social events as well. I mean, in term 3 this year, and I'm sure it's going to carry on, we had a social event every week. So we'll have bar crawls, we'll have circles, we'll have just casual meetups at T-Bar or the Dirty Deck on campus. So it's just really great to go to those events. I probably didn't make the most of those events in my first year as well, but just go along. There's sober and drinking events. So it's really a good mix from whatever you want to do. So we are just we might be the student newspaper, we are just a normal Warwick society as well, which I think some people can forget sometimes, and it's easy to forget, but especially when you do have those faces on WhatsApp or names on emails. But just do come along to those events, and it's always great to get to meet all the writers as well.
I mean, like these three will tell you, they went from names and articles to the hosts of this podcast and great friends, so you don't know what friendships you're going to get out of this experience or contacts or anything. So it's definitely a great thing to get involved, not just digitally, but in person through our socials as well. I wanted to know, it's definitely something we're going to talk about when we interview people and our alumni, but is journalism an end goal for you guys? For me personally, it's an avenue I'm interested in, but I would really like to go into publishing and like working for a publishing house. I love books, I love literature, anything to do with this sort of thing. So whilst I love writing, potentially journalism isn't the end goal for me. But I'd like to know you guys if you know what you want to do. It's a scary thing. I don't want to become an adult, and I definitely don't want to do my final year. But if you have an inkling, I'd love to know what you kind of want to do with journalism. And yeah, I don't know who wants. Yeah, go for it.
Shall I go first? I was going to say, I think for me, coming into Warwick, I always had the idea that journalism was the path that I did want to go down after university, but I chose English purposefully as a degree because I didn't want to close my options off. But getting involved in the Boar has made me realise that journalism is the path I do want to go down. But I think the bigger question for me now is what type of journalism, how to get into journalism. So I've really made the most of my time at the Boar. The podcast is a great opportunity for me to explore new avenues at the Boar and to speak to people, not just to explore new opportunities, but to speak to people who have gone on from the Boar to do other things as well. So I do think journalism is ultimately an end goal, and I hope it's where I end up. I mean, I think we're all aware it's not the easiest industry to get into, but I just want to say to writers as well, don't let that deter you from considering journalism. We have lots of opportunities through the Board to connect you to news associates. We have a lot of work with, and we'll do it with SPAs, and there's a lot of workshops we'll hopefully get involved in and talks. So the Boar has definitely given me that opportunity to consider journalism as a career. I don't think I've closed myself off to other options, but I think at this point that's probably the route I'm looking at.
Yeah, and I mean, it's worth saying there are so many different types of journalism. There's radio journalism, there's documentary journalism, and there's so many different ways to get involved. And the Boar is a great starting point for that, to explore different avenues. Like now we've started the podcast, that is a different avenue. There's also writing and interviewing, and you can find what style of journalism you want to do through that. So yeah, I mean, journalism is a very broad term for the job, and it's worth looking at all the different avenues. Yeah, Lucy, what about you?
Yeah, well, much like Tom, since starting at the Boar, it's made me realize that this is the route that I'd like to go down, potentially, like Beth as well. Publishing would be another sort of route that I'd look at, but right now I'm thinking I'd like to go down more of the culture journalism route and like the magazine area of journalism. That is my current plan and what I'm looking at and how I can get into that. But also, as like Beth was just saying, with all the different like paths in journalism, we're going to be speaking to so many people who've gone down. I don't think any of them have gone down the exact same route, even though they've all done the Boar, maybe they've got the same degree, the same masters. They've gone into sort of different areas of journalism, which I think is one of the great things about sort of this and the Boar, is that you can figure out sort of what exactly interests you. Like my interests are kind of different to Tom's and Rachel's with sort of the culture side, yet we're kind of like in the same society and doing sort of the same thing. So I think that's one of the other great things about the Boar. But yeah, to answer the question, is that I want to do more of the culture and like magazine style.
Yeah. I mean, we have 16 sections. You know, you can get involved in really anything you are interested in. Try your hand at anything you're interested in. And it's also worth saying that if you're not sure where your article will fit, if you have a story you want to tell, there will be a place for it. So just contact the people that you want to, with the story you want to write about, and we'll find a way for you to fit it in. So, yeah. And yourself, Rachel?
I mean, similar in a sense, I'd guess. Like, definitely it's a route I'm considering, but potentially less traditional journalism. I do quite a bit of social media work for a women's sport site, and I've had like quite a few opportunities to do quite a bit of like various pieces of like football stuff through like local clubs and things, and that's definitely a side that I'm interested in at the moment. So definitely still looking into like writing and traditional media, but also more kind of social media work as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you say, like with technology changing now, with the world changing around us, so much of journalism is going through social media avenues and online sites and podcasts, and there's so many different ways for people to interact with stories. So it's not necessarily just the traditional pen to paper or keyboard to Word doc, I don't know. But yeah, there's so many different ways to get your story out there. These two questions kind of go a bit hand in hand. One piece of advice to writers, to freshers, and also why should they get involved, that sort of avenue of conversation. Lucy?
I think that all freshers should get involved with the Boar because firstly, it's such a big society of so many people in, so you're bound to meet like other people with similar interests to you, firstly, and also because just as we've spoken about, the number of opportunities in the Boar that you can get, you know, even if you're not particularly interested in writing, there's sort of social media roles. We've got Abby, who's our brilliant like head of social media. She's currently advertising for Depths. I know by the time this podcast goes out, that probably will have closed, but there's other opportunities within the Boar, bar just sort of writing. There's also like, you know, head of events, social media. There's different sort of routes to go down, and yeah, just sort of the people, and you know, the people that you can meet. Like we've all become friends through the Boar. It goes for any society, but I just sort of, that is what I would say is the main thing, just getting involved, because there's so many different things to do within the Boar that you're kind of bound to find something that you enjoy within it if you're interested in this type of thing, sort of journalism style.
Mm-hmm. Tom?
I think just very similar to Lucy, really, is just get involved. I mean, I'm going into my third year, and I think the one piece of advice I keep thinking when I come to the end of every term, every year, is I just wish I could get involved. I wish I could have got involved more earlier. So to freshers, if you're listening now, make sure you get involved. I think come along to the events. Make yourself known, even if you don't want to make yourself known, there's plenty you can do in the background as well, but just try and get involved, try and speak to us. We're a lovely, friendly bunch of people. I mean, don't speak to Lucy and Rachel because they'll be in Spain, but me and Beth will be around in Freshers Week to speak to. There's a lot of events in Freshers Week where you can get involved in the Boar. So I think, yeah, one of my biggest pieces of advice is just take every opportunity you can get, whether that's in the Boar, but also outside the Boar as well. You can balance a lot of things at Warwick alongside the Boar. I do other societies as well. So don't feel like if you join the Boar, you can't do other things as well. You can really have a rounded experience at uni doing everything you want. And yeah, I think the friends you can make as well, just like any society, but especially at the Boar, you will find such like-minded people. And I think that's the one thing that can set it apart from another society, is you can find people that you won't just be friends with, but you can talk to about those avenues you want to look at after university, and people you probably stay in touch with in the future as well. I mean, we talk about journalism being all about contacts, but it's not just contacts to get the stories, but it's contacts to stay in touch with people when you are working as well. So I think the biggest advice is just get involved, and you will make some great friends through the Boar as well.
Yeah, I mean, you just said as well, it's easy to fit the Boar around your university life. If you are just interested in writing, you know, there's not a quota of how much you write. You can write as much or as little as you want. You can go for the full hog. You can write for one section. It's completely up to you, and there's a lot of freedom with how you go about your role at the Boar. But you can get involved how much, how little you want. We would just be very happy to have you there, basically. And yourself, Rachel?
I mean, yeah, pretty much the same as everyone else, but I think I would probably say, which everyone has kind of touched on, but just don't be scared to like go to an event or get involved, like especially, well, whatever point you're at, but especially in like Freshers Week. I think the majority of people attending events will be attending events alone, so don't let that put you off. If you don't know anyone that wants to go with you, or you haven't met anyone yet, then don't be afraid of going and just talking to people, because I'd guarantee that most people were originally in that position. I know that I and Lucy as well like first went to the Boar and Freshers Week with no one else, and it works out. So I'd just say go, even if you're a bit nervous, because you don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, we're reaching the end. I want to ask you, what's next for the podcast? Are you guys going to announce our very special guest for episode 2, or is that going to be a secret? I'm looking at your faces, and you're like, are we going to? Are we not going to?
Should we tease it?
Yeah,
that's a good idea. Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Okay, I guess I'm taking responsibility for that.
You've set yourself up.
Say a clue. Should we all say a clue to
Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Well, our next episode has our first guest, firstly. So, our first clue for who our first guest will be is
Drum roll.
he's just a Boar legend. Like, that is the clue. Like, he has a lot of records under his name.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a legend.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
His first role, this is a bit harder. His first role was in the TV section.
I think his first role was cartoonist.
Oh
Yeah, it
God.
was.
Sorry. I nearly said the person's name then. But sorry, person.
I'm trying to think of another clue about this person now as well. I think the one thing we can say is if you get involved in the Boar, you'll hear his name around a lot, especially at Boar Awards.
Yes.
Okay.
And talking about Boar Awards, this person has won 9 Boar Awards.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Which is
Very
crazy.
excited.
a legend.
Yeah, it's going to be a great episode. We're very excited to share it with you. And if you want to follow us on social medias, there'll be more teasers. There'll be more information coming out. It's definitely the best place to find out more about us. So it will be Hogging the Mic on Instagram and on LinkedIn for our alumni. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to get involved. I'm sure there will be polls, there will be question boxes, as well as letting you know when new episodes are released and more. We can't wait to see you about.